Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. I'm by a beach bar. There's some music going on. There's a few cars driving around, people talking. So I really hope you can hear me. But this was just too big a fight for me not to bring a preview video for you guys. So this is the big one: Lomachenko against Jorge Linares. This is a terrific fight. I'm so excited about this fight. I'm stunned at the pricing. I mean, put it this way: Jorge Linares, as a pound for pound fighter, in terms of his offensive game, he's a top 10 fighter. He is incredible offensively in an attacking aspect. So to have him at a massive 9-1 is ludicrous. I don't care how good Lomachenko is. Linares is an elite level fighter, to the point where most people seem to be picking Lomachenko to win the fight by stoppage. If he wins the fight full stop, let alone by stoppage, to me he goes directly to number one. Do not pass go, do not collect 200. He's number one pound for pound fighter in the world. There is no doubt about that, in my opinion, if he beats Jorge Linares. You have to understand, he's already gone up one weight category. If he goes up another weight category and beats Linares, I mean, this is incredible. I mean, to think that Rigo is an elite level fighter in his own right, to go up 2 weight categories, although weight and size didn't play a significant role, it's not like he out-muscled Rigondeaux. Lomachenko still had certain reach advantages, height advantages against Rigondeaux. So the ability to be able to overcome a 2-weight disadvantage, in essence, as you're going up, for these guys is incredible. You're talking about against a guy as good as Linares, because he really is elite pound for pound in terms of his offensive game. So what I'm going to do here is talk a little bit about what Linares does well, what Lomachenko does well, and then we're going to talk about where each guy can have success, and then we're going to talk about how I believe the fight will go. Okay, so starting off, we'll talk about Jorge Linares. One thing he does, he crouches. He can get on the back foot, or he can stalk you. He can do either one. He's a very varied offensive fighter, and one thing he'll do, he'll crouch quite low, and as he's coming in quite low, he'll launch a right hand. So he'll come in low, in a position whereby he's almost goading you to throw a shot, and he's always looking to just slip his head, and he'll look for that straight right hand down the pipe, or a jab, but he'll vary his shots. So he'll either lead with the like I said, the power shot, or with the jab, but he does this incredible thing, Linares, where he looks like he's going to shift, so he twists his entire body into a shot, including the hips, and his back foot lifts off the ground to really launch power into it. But rather than shift that back foot forward, something Jack Dempsey used to do, something Golovkin does, he'll actually maintain. He'll take a very small stutter step, he'll lift his foot, and he'll literally step forward 3 inches, and it enables him to maintain his construct and maintain his form. And what he does by doing that is create the power of a shift while not coming out of balance, and maintaining his range and his fundamental stance, which enables him, if it doesn't go his way and he's going to miss that right hand, it enables him to immediately throw another shot before even the fighter who's looking to counter or step aside is able to reset. So he can punch while you're still trying to reset, or he can literally escape the danger, so he doesn't fall into shots. It's an incredible little thing that he does. It really is beautiful, and it enables him to change that line of attack. Another thing he does brilliantly is he'll vary his jab from upstairs to downstairs, and it often lands followed by a hooping or looping, like a cupping left hook, and that will be key against Lomachenko. We'll talk about that later. Basically, Lomachenko often likes to pivot to his own right. We'll talk about that later. But when he throws that left hook, one thing he does brilliantly is he aims it almost behind your ear. Now, if it lands, it's a punch. If he's overhit that left hook and it goes behind your head, he'll very rarely come up short with the left hook. But if it comes from behind your head, he'll almost catch you with the inside of the glove, and what he'll do is pull you in, essentially, or trap you. Now, this is something that Anthony Joshua did against Vladimir Klitschko. We spoke about that, the danger of that uppercut. And what he did when he threw that left hand, we said that, the preview to the Joshua-Klitschko fight, that the Joshua uppercut was potentially a key punch in the fight, and it is what went on to decide the fight. Now, what he did is he threw a left hook, and by throwing that left hook, he missed, but he had it above the back of Klitschko's head, and by having it above his head, it stopped Klitschko lifting and escaping. So it enabled Joshua to follow in with the uppercut with Klitschko's head still trapped. That's something that Linares does very well. Okay, Lomachenko's not adverse to doing that also, but Linares does it very effectively and more often. But rather than an uppercut, he'll throw a short right hand with it, and his right hand is a very crisp, effective punch. So he's going to be looking to try and stop a guy like Lomachenko from escaping, whether it's by holding with that left hooping shot or a variety of other ways. We're going to get to that in a moment. Now, another thing that he does brilliantly, his variation, okay, it will throw a guy off of his rhythm. He'll stalk you, or he can move around the ring on the back foot. If he stands in front of you or he's chasing you, he'll often crouch, like I've explained, and he's constantly just moving his head slightly. And what he's looking to do, he stays calm under pressure. So let's say he's in that pocket and you're looking to counter him. He's not going to sit there and deflect and think about, okay, defense first, like a Floyd Mayweather would. Floyd will block shots, defend, and when you're done or you've made an error, he'll counter you. Okay, that's not what Linares does. Linares will look to slip a shot and shoot back. So he'll get into a gunfight with you because he knows that his punch variation is superb, and he knows that he's capable of landing crisp, hard, varied shots that you don't see coming. It could be a left hook, it could be a right hand, it could be a left uppercut to the body, a right hand to the body, a right uppercut. He really does have a varied combination of punching. And he fancies himself to evade your punches and land the crisper shots. And 90% of the time, he's the one that's doing that. So that's what he tends to look to do. And he'll, like I said, he'll get that lateral head movement in. If he's looking to escape, he'll escape with his legs. Okay, like I said, he's not that sort of guy who's looking to block shots. He'll either throw with you or use his legs to get outside. He's focused on punching when you're punching, so he's dangerous consistently. When you let your hands go, he lets his hands go. That can make him vulnerable. You're never more vulnerable than when you're throwing a punch, but he's so adept and so slick at doing what he does that he's the one that's usually on the upper hand of that, and he can make you gun shy because he's crisp. So you start exchanging with him, all of a sudden you start to think, this is hurting. So you start to become more gun shy, and you have a high guard like Anthony Crolla did, and then he can start to open up on you and go to work on you. He really is a beautiful fighter to watch. Now we'll talk a little about what Lomachenko does well. Now Lomachenko loves to read you and constantly change angles. Okay, he'll have you turning to prevent you setting your feet. We know that about Lomachenko. It's like fighting Neo from the Matrix. That's a term most people are using, but that's one thing he does brilliantly. Another thing he does very well is that when he retreats, he'll often have an extended lead hand just to hold you off. Now it could be to your shoulder or to your head, so he uses that head control. And it stops you from closing the range. So not only are his feet excellent, he'll just by having his hand on your head or on your shoulder, you're not really able to launch yourself into him. It keeps you off balance. He's brilliant at doing that. That though can actually benefit Linares. So we're going to talk a little bit about what Linares does well. I mean, there's a whole bunch of more things that Loma does well. We're going to talk about in a second. But where Linares can have success is that if Lomachenko's not strong enough to hold you off using that lead head control, perhaps you're in a position where you can close the range and let go of your hands and force Lomachenko into a shootout. In the smaller weight categories, we know that he's been able to hold fighters off and use his superior foot speed. What happens against guys that he can't do that with? Many will point to Salido and say, look, that would be a repeat. He couldn't quite keep Salido off. Salido fought a very dirty fight, body shots, there were a bunch of low blows involved. If you can turn it into a dogfight against Lomachenko rather than a technical fight, you can have success against him. Now, Linares isn't really a dirty fighter, but he's the naturally bigger man. He's the bigger puncher too. Lomachenko's not a big puncher. I know he's had a bunch of stoppages. Their guys quitting. Lomachenko doesn't really knock guys out with one shot. He's not about that. It's more about accumulative damage with Lomachenko. So if Linares can force Lomachenko to fight his sort of fight when he wants to fight it, Lomachenko could be in a very uncomfortable position if he can't use that head control to dictate what happens with Linares' body and foot positioning. Okay, so Linares, one thing he'll also look to do, if Lomachenko is looking to try and control him with that lead hand, it creates a perfect situation for Linares to shoot that vicious little left hook he throws to the body, which he used against Anthony Crolla very well against Anthony Crolla. He used it against Luke Campbell as well early in the fight. It's just this little cheeky left hook just below the rib, and it doesn't look like much, but over the course of the fight it really takes effect. The other thing is that looping left hook that we're talking about, where it comes over and above that lead hand. If he's capable of doing that, you're almost inviting him to do that if you're looking to control with a lead hand. So potentially Lomachenko, if he is looking to use that tactic, there will be spots there for Linares to have real success with that looping shot. He's the bigger puncher, like I said, the bigger man, established at the weight. He's one of those rare fighters as well who is a combination puncher that can also drop a guy with just one shot. So like I said, Lomachenko tends to want to break you down. You look at a guy like Linares though, he's capable of doing that, or he's capable of just planting his feet, sitting on one shot, and all of a sudden you're on the floor. Amir Khan has that about him too. You know, he'll touch you with a whole bunch of shots, and then pitter-patter shots, and then he'll rip in a powerful one. Linares does that very well. Loma does that, but not with the same effect. We'll come to that in a moment, okay? The other thing he has, Linares, is the height and reach advantage, and he's very, very proficient, even against a top-level in-and-out fighter like Luke Campbell, who's a very successful amateur fighter, an Olympian, and so on and so forth, who had the height and reach advantage on him. That was a good competitive fight, but you saw that even then, Linares was able to do certain things which would put Campbell in a position where he wasn't able to dictate the range as he would have hoped, and he was still able to control that distance more effectively, and he was able to adapt essentially, and eventually went on to win the fight on points. So if he's up against a guy who's taller than him with a longer reach, theory would tell you that if he can employ that, he's against a very good in and out fighter, by the way, not a flat-footed taller guy. Luke Campbell is very good at being in and out. Like I said, top-level amateur, he still fights quite upright, almost like an amateur style. Theory, like I said, it's just theory. When you're up against Lomachenko, theory often goes out the window, but theory would suggest that perhaps if he's capable of doing that against Luke Campbell in a fighter he has the reach advantage against, he's going to be able to do that against Lomachenko, or at least that's what he'll hope. The other thing he does very well is he'll shoot a right hand from the shoulder. Okay, so he won't come low, and he'll crouch down and it comes straight from there, straight from the shoulder. It comes straight. Because of that, there's less of a tail on the shot. He's not winding up to throw that right hand, it's just straight. And there's power behind it, like I said, because of the way he rotates at the hips without actually following through with the shift. So you don't see the punch coming, and it's a big, effective punch. He's going to hope to be able to land more quickly than Lomachenko, in a sense. I'm just talking about things that he's going to want to do. Now, where Lomachenko can have success is that Linares is because of that shift that we're talking about, where he doesn't actually follow through, he's very susceptible to being hit with uppercuts to the solar plexus, because although he's always looking to shift that head side to side, that lateral head movement, what he doesn't do effectively is move that body, because his weight is on that front foot and he's often crouched. Now, when that happens, you're going to see a situation where Lomachenko is able to rip him shots to the body. And listen, Lomachenko's not a big puncher, certainly not to the head, but make no mistake, he's a very vicious body puncher. He doesn't get when we think of body punchers traditionally, we're thinking of guys that like to come in at a crouch, rip shots to the body, guys like Ricky Hatton, guys like Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., guys like Dillian White. You don't think of them as being skilled fighters light on their toes. So as a result, a lot of people often undermine or overlook what Lomachenko does well to the body. Make no mistake, Lomachenko is a vicious body puncher. He throws a beautiful uppercut to the solar plexus. We saw him use that consistently against guys like Luke Campbell. Against guys like Jason Souza, and also straight left hands. He throws a really good, effective straight left hand to the solar plexus too. So that he's capable of really landing significant shots there, and that could be a real problem for Linares on the night. Another thing that he does very, very well, Lomachenko, is that he mixes up his power shots well. Okay, so they're not always hard shots. We've spoken about how Linares does that, but Lomachenko does it. Lomachenko's more effective at disguising it, even though Linares is the bigger one-off puncher. Now, this is something that Amir Khan does well. He'll touch you with, he'll throw a 3-punch, 4-punch, 5-punch combination, and because of Khan's hand speed, you're not sure what's coming at you when. It's not always 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He'll throw these bunch of punches, and within them, he'll drop this big punch. He did it to Marcos Maidana, where he dropped him with that body punch. He does it quite effectively, and he does it a lot. That's something Lomachenko will do. He'll often stand a bit side on, and he'll literally lift his hands up and down. He's not throwing a punch, and then he'll touch you, and then bang, he'll whip in a hard shot. And that's a shock to the system almost. You're not sure, is a powerful shot coming? Is a pitter-patter shot coming? You can't take the risk. Okay, so he mixes those shots up very, very well. Okay. So it creates a situation where you don't know what's coming when. Now, if Linares is going to punch with opponents. One thing that he does, if he isn't stepping away, because Linares' defense is very much to do with his legs, if he isn't stepping away, he needs to take a break, he's gotten tired, whatever the case may be, he'll plant his feet and he'll roll his body. And he'll do it off the center of the ring. He won't do it up on the ropes or anything like that. He'll dip to the side, to the right-hand side, or he'll lean back. And he gets away with it because you're scared to punch with him because you know that he's crisp, and he's got very, very good upper body movement. The thing is, we saw Rigo often dip to that right-hand side. And what does Lomachenko do? Pivot around him. So this is a situation whereby if Linares, who's susceptible to being hit to the body, is able to get frozen by Lomachenko, then there's no reason why he wouldn't be able to then change the angle on Linares and start to land shots from different angles. Okay, I hope you guys can hear me, because in fact I'm going to pause this for a second because there's a motorbike behind me and the engine's going off, so I don't want to have an issue with that. One sec. Welcome back, ladies and gents. I hope you didn't miss any of that due to the sound. There was a loud motorbike engine running behind me, so just continuing this now. So yeah, that's where Lomachenko can have a lot of success against Linares. There's another thing that Loma's very good at. He's incredible at making the predictable unpredictable. So we know that Lomachenko prefers to pivot to his right, as in if you're an orthodox fighter, to your left, okay, or even if you're a southpaw, it's still your left. So we know he prefers to shift that way, to pivot that way, but yet he's still successful with it. When we were doing the Prospect Watch video last week, we spoke about Kambosos Jr. Now, when we spoke about Kambosos, we spoke about the fact that he often throws in the uppercut too consistently, and yet he lands it more often than not. He could make it a more effective, crisper puncher if he's hiding it, but he's still landing it. Now, that may very well be because he's just a prospect and he's yet to come up against guys that are good enough to read and counter that. Or it's just one of those things where even if you know it's coming, it still lands, kind of like a Manny Pacquiao straight left hand. So with Lomachenko, he's fought top-level fighters. We know he's good enough to be able to land those big, effective power shots. Now, and we know he's good enough to be able to do certain things that he gets away with without, even though there's a pattern there. So with the pattern of him consistently pivoting towards his own right, you still can't stop it. Now, why can't you stop it? Because he'll often use feints and fight off the feints. So when you've got someone like Golovkin or Lennox Lewis or Vladimir Klitschko, what they'll often do is land a big jab, and the jab's a beautiful weapon. So there isn't much of a tell on a jab from Golovkin or Paulie Malignaggi or Vladimir Klitschko or Lennox Lewis. So what happens is, the jab's coming, there's not much you can do about it, they build off of that, and everything comes off of the jab. With Lomachenko, he's reached such an advanced level of movement that he'll pretend to throw a jab with a simple movement. So he won't oversell it, okay, he'll literally gradually just drop a little hand, and as he does the hand, you're expecting a jab, you'll begin to react to cover up, and as he's dropped the hand, he'll then change it and throw a hook over the top of he'll change the trajectory of the punch, essentially. Linares does this very, very well too. They both are very proficient at changing the trajectory of a punch mid-throw. It is an incredible thing to be accurate with that at full speed, especially at the tempo that these guys fight at. The thing is, though, with Lomachenko, what he'll also do, rather than just change the trajectory of the jab, he'll actually often pivot off of that. So he'll shape as though he's going to throw a right hand, then he'll throw a jab. The next time he will throw a lead right hand. The next time he's shaped in the same way, but he actually pivots around you. And by doing that and pivoting away from you, he's got you consistently not being able to deal with something that is effectively predictable. He's going to do it, and he still changed the angle. Now, we saw with Jason Sosa, one thing he tried to do is stay covered up and pivot with Lomachenko. We saw him trying to pivot with Lomachenko, and he would do it effectively, but by the time he'd pivot with Lomachenko, a puncher's coming, so he'd be getting caught with big shots. So that split second, however fast you are at trying to read what he's doing and turning with him, that split second can often stop you from resetting or from getting your shot off first. Now, that's where we're talking about how that wide hook and trying to pull him in and hold him in, and that little left hook to the body can stop Lomachenko in his tracks, in theory. If he tries to do that and Linares is able to read that and start to throw those left hooks, he can have a real effect on Lomachenko. If he can't, and Lomachenko is consistently turning him, it's going to stop Linares from planting his feet at all. Even though Linares is very light on his toes and he doesn't really need to plant his feet that much, he still often does when he's looking for that big power shot. So it's one of those fights where you're talking about two supreme level tacticians and technicians that are both capable of doing an awful lot of things. If I had to predict, I'd probably go for Lomachenko on points, probably, but it's one of those fights that I can't pick, because he's going up, because they are two brilliant fighters. I just feel that Lomachenko's better all round. I think Linares defensively can get caught a little bit too much. He also has areas of the fight where, he, as his stamina will fall slightly, he will plant his feet, and you can't really do that against Lomachenko if you're really looking to, unless you're going to, bulldozer your way through and start to really work that body. But in terms of just standing in the ring and dipping to the side, or leaning back like Linares does, that's a recipe for disaster against a guy like Lomachenko. If there's a KO, I believe it's more likely to be Linares. One thing I'm really surprised about is that Linares is almost 9-1 to win this fight. That's incredible. This is a very, very close fight. It's a 60-40 to Lomachenko, in my opinion. It is a very, very close fight. If Lomachenko does win the fight, the bookies expect a knockout. I'm stunned at that. To think that Lomachenko on points is the outside bet for a Lomachenko win is surprising to me. I don't think Lomachenko is a big puncher. I think he's more about wearing you down. Look at the way he's stopped guys. He embarrasses them. He wears them down. If Linares, I know Linares got a reputation of being knocked out in the past, but guys like DeMarco were punchers that wore him down, and they're punchers. Guys like Lomachenko, it's a different style of wearing you down. It's outboxing you rather than really putting the pressure on you. I don't think this will be Lomachenko knocking Linares out. So it'll either be Lomachenko on points, in my opinion, or perhaps Linares to win the fight by knockout. Really, really interesting fight. I lean towards Loma, but I do think it's severely mispriced. Thank you for watching. I hope the sound issues have been alright. I practically had the microphone in my mouth while doing this video. I apologise. Like I said, I am by a beach bar, so I wanted to make sure that I brought some sort of video for this terrific fight. Thank you for watching. Chat to you soon.